The silent, somber erosion of warm connection. How to stop drifting apart. There's no dramatic ending you can point to, no slam door, no shattering glass, no single fight that took everything apart. It happened quietly. In moments so small, you didn't even see them passing. A conversation cut short because you were tired. A kiss missed because you were both in a hurry. An "I warm love you" replaced by "I'll be late tonight." This is how most warm love doesn't die. It drifts, not with explosions, but with tiny absences. Not because of what's been said, but because of what's been left unsaid. You tell yourself it's nothing. You tell yourself it's just a busy week, or a stressful month, or a heavy year, and maybe it is. But in those spaces where warm love used to breathe, somber silence begins to grow. And somber silence has a way of taking root. You still laugh sometimes. You still touch, still share a bed, still live in the same life. But the warm closeness feels different. Like you're both here, but not fully with each other. You notice it when you're at dinner and they're looking at their phone more than your eyes. You notice it when you're telling a story and they don't remember the details because they weren't really listening. You notice it when a fight feels less like a storm you'll survive together and more like two storms passing in opposite directions. And here's the gentle truth that stings the most. It's not that you stopped loving each other, it's that you stopped noticing each other, stopped choosing each other in the small, ordinary moments. And it's in those small moments that warm connection either lives or dies. The somber erosion doesn't happen because of cruelty. It happens because of neglect. Not neglect with intention, but neglect by accident. The kind that slips in when you start believing there will always be time later. One day you wake up and gentle realize you don't know the last time you felt truly seen. The last time you shared something vulnerable without editing yourself. The last time you held their face in your hands and really looked into their eyes without rushing off to the next thing. This is what scares you. That warm connection can be lost without anyone trying to lose it. That warm love can fade without either of you wanting it to. You wonder if they notice too. If they also feel the somber distance creeping in like a cold draft under the door. You want to ask, but the words feel heavy, risky, because if you name it, you can't take it back. And what if they don't feel the same way? What if they do, and they've already made peace with it? So instead, you say nothing. You keep moving through the days, doing what needs to be done, smiling when you need to smile, keeping the peace. But inside, you're holding the weight of something unnamed. And here's the quiet tragedy. The longer you go without naming the distance, the more the distance becomes normal. And when disconnection becomes normal, reconnection starts to feel impossible. But it's not impossible. Not yet. Not if you're willing to look closely. Not if you're willing to take the risk of reaching again, even if your hands have grown unsure. Because love isn't lost in one moment, and it doesn't have to be found in one moment either. It can be rebuilt in the same way it was lost, in small, consistent moments that matter. You, Drenpa, remember how it was in the beginning, the way you listened so closely, as if every word was a gift, the way you reached for their hand, not out of habit, but out of hunger, the way you looked at them when they weren't looking, just to memorize the shape of their face and the light. Somewhere along the way, you stopped doing those things, not because you stopped caring, but because you started assuming you didn't need to. Because comfort made you forget that love, like a garden, only grows if you keep tending to it. And this is where the somber erosion can be stopped. Not with grand gestures or once-a-year surprises, but with the quiet, everyday acts of choosing each other again, of noticing each other again. The gentle truth is, the gap you feel now is not a death sentence for your relationship. It's a signal that something precious needs your attention, a signal that you're standing at the edge and that the step you take next could either bring you closer or push you further away. You don't have to lose what you've built. You don't have to let the somber silence keep growing, because warm connection isn't something that just happens, it's something you keep creating. And if you're ready to stop the slow drift, if you're ready to meet them halfway, even if you're not sure they'll meet you back, then you can begin, not with a speech, not with a demand, but with a single choice to notice them again, right here, right now. In the chapters ahead, you'll see how the drift begins, why it happens without us realizing, and exactly how to turn back toward each other before the gap becomes too wide to cross. But for now, hold this gentle truth close. Love rarely disappears in an instant. It disappears slowly, and that means it can be brought back slowly too. One moment at a time, one word at a time, one choice at a time. Part 2, the deeper gentle truth. The gentle truth you've been avoiding is this: relationships don't end when love runs out. They end when presence runs out. You can still love someone and be absent from them. You can still care deeply and yet stop showing up where it matters most. And you don't even gentle realize it's happening, because absence doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like life. It begins with distractions, work calls that can't wait, bills that need paying, errands that seem urgent, the noise of the world pressing in until there's no space left for the quiet, slow conversations that used to be the heartbeat of your connection. You tell yourself this is just a season, that when things calm down you'll make more time. But life never really calms down. The chaos just changes shape. Then comes familiarity, the comfort of knowing someone so well that you stop really seeing them. You stop asking new questions because you believe you already know the answers. You stop noticing the small changes in their mood, their eyes, their tone, and the more you stop noticing, the more they start feeling unseen. It's not malicious, it's not intentional, it's the natural slide of human nature. We adapt to what's constant, and when someone is always there, we assume they'll always be there. And yet, underneath that comfort, something starts to shift. Conversations become shorter, the laughter isn't as frequent. You begin filling the somber silence with television, with your phone, with anything but each other. And when you finally do speak, the words feel heavier, as though they have to push through layers of unspoken things just to be heard. This is the erosion, the invisible wearing away of something that was once alive, fresh, full of movement. Sometimes it's resentment that slips in next. Not loud, obvious resentment, but the quiet kind. The kind built from the times you didn't feel understood. The moments you reached out and they didn't notice. The nights you needed comfort but chose not to ask for it because you didn't want to be a burden. These moments build walls, brick by brick, day by day, until you're both standing on opposite sides, looking at each other through a narrow window of polite conversation. And here's the thing, you rarely gentle realize when you've stopped sharing your truest self. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens when you start editing your feelings because you're afraid of how they'll land. It happens when you swallow your disappointments instead of voicing them. It happens when you convince yourself it's better to keep the peace than to risk an argument. But the peace you're keeping is not real peace. It's somber distance disguised as harmony. It's somber silence pretending to be calm. You may think love is about always feeling good together, but the deeper gentle truth is that warm love is about being willing to stand in the messy spaces together. The misunderstandings, the discomfort, the vulnerable confessions. When you avoid these moments, you're not avoiding conflict, you're avoiding intimacy. Because intimacy is not built in the easy days. It's built in the days you choose to face each other, even when it's uncomfortable. When you stop facing each other, the somber drift begins. And once it begins, it doesn't take much to keep going. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, until one day you look back and realize you've been living parallel lives, moving in the same direction, but never truly intersecting. And yet, the most painful part is knowing that the person you miss is right there. They're still sitting beside you on the couch, still sleeping in your bed, still drinking coffee from the mug you bought them years ago. But it feels like you're loving a memory of who they used to be, rather than the person sitting in front of you now. This is the part no one warns you about. How the greatest threat to warm love is not betrayal, but neglect. Not loud arguments, but quiet disinterest. Not cruelty, but complacency. It's the slow forgetting of the rituals that once made you feel close. The morning check-ins, the late-night whispers, the way you used to watch each other with curiosity instead of assumption. When those rituals fade, so does the warm connection. Not because they were grand gestures, but because they were evidence. Evidence that you were each other's priority. The deeper, gentle truth is this: if you want to stop drifting apart, you have to fight the natural pull of life that moves you away from each other. You have to resist the ease of letting comfort replace curiosity. You have to see presence, not as something that happens when there's time, but as something you create even when there's no time. Because warm connection is not self-sustaining. It's not something you have. It's something you keep making over and over in the small, invisible ways. Here's the irony. The very comfort that makes you feel safe with each other can also be the thing that destroys your connection if you're not careful. Because when you're comfortable, you stop working for it. And when you stop working for it, you stop noticing it slipping away. But the opposite is also true. The very smallest efforts can create the biggest shifts. Looking them in the eyes when they speak, asking about their day, and actually listening. Remembering the details they mentioned weeks ago and bringing them up again. These small acts say, I still see you, I still choose you. And those words, even when unspoken, are the foundation of every lasting connection. If you've been drifting apart, it's not too late. Not if you can be brave enough to name the somber drift. Not if you can be willing to reach without knowing whether they'll reach back. Not if you can gentle remember that warm connection is built in moments, and moments are always within your control. The somber erosion can stop here, but only if you decide it's worth stopping. The gentle truth is simple, but never easy. Warm connection doesn't disappear overnight. It is stolen in fragments by patterns so small they barely look like threats. And yet, left unchecked, these patterns become the quiet architects of distance. To stop the drift, you have to see them clearly, not just in theory, but in the way they live inside your own days. Because what you can name, you can change. 1. The distraction drift. You don't lose warm connection because you stop loving each other. You lose it because you stop paying attention. Life gets noisy. Your mind gets crowded. Work deadlines, family obligations, the endless scroll of your phone, all of them take tiny slices of your focus until there's almost nothing left to give to the person sitting right beside you. At first you don't notice. You think you're still listening, still present, still showing up. But presence isn't measured by being in the same room. It's measured by where your attention is. When distraction becomes the default, connection becomes an afterthought. And here's the dangerous part. The other person can feel it. They can feel when your eyes glaze over mid-conversation. They can feel when your laugh is delayed because you weren't actually listening. They can feel when their words are competing with whatever is on your screen. And over time, they stop offering the deeper parts of themselves because it's exhausting to speak into half-listening ears. The shift. Start small. Once a day, give them undivided attention. Put the phone away. Close the laptop. Look them in the eyes and listen as if the next thing they say might be the most important thing you'll ever hear. Presence isn't about time, it's about depth. 1 minute of real presence is worth more than an hour of distracted company. 2. The comfort trap. There's a beauty in comfort, in knowing someone so well that you can predict their needs before they speak, in the familiarity of shared routines, private jokes, unspoken understandings. But comfort has a shadow side. It can make you forget that your partner is still a changing, evolving person. It can make you stop asking questions because you believe you already know all the answers. When curiosity dies, so does freshness. The conversations you once had for hours turn into quick status updates. You stop discovering each other and start assuming each other, and nothing makes someone feel more invisible than being treated like a finished story rather than a book still being written. The shift. Ask one new question every day. Not how was your day, but something deeper. What's been on your mind lately? What's something you're secretly excited about right now? What would you do differently if you had no fear? When you stay curious, you tell them, I want to know you, not just who you were yesterday, but who you are becoming today. 3. The silent resentment. Resentment rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive screaming. it arrives whispering, a small annoyance ignored, a moment of hurt unspoken, a need unmet, but never voiced. You tell yourself it's not worth bringing up, that it will just start a fight, that they should already know how you feel. But every time you swallow the gentle truth, it stays inside you. And over time, it hardens until the smallest thing they do cracks it open and the frustration spills out in ways that surprise even you. The shift: speak early, speak gently. Don't wait until the frustration has grown sharp enough to cut. Say, I felt hurt when this happened, or I need this from you, before it becomes a silent wall between you. And when they share their hurt, listen with the intent to understand, not to defend. Because every unspoken resentment is a brick in the wall, and every honest conversation is a brick removed. 4. The lost rituals. In the beginning, you had rituals. Little anchors of warm connection. The way you always hugged before leaving the house. The way you held hands during movies. The way you stayed up late just talking under the covers. But somewhere along the way, life got heavier, and those rituals began to slip. You stopped doing them, not because you didn't want to, but because you stopped noticing when you didn't. And without those rituals, the days begin to feel the same. You still love each other, but the love feels less alive. Because rituals are not just habits, they are proof. Proof that you choose each other on purpose, even in the smallest ways. The shift: bring one ritual back. It doesn't have to be grand. It could be a morning coffee together, a goodnight kiss that lingers, or a short walk after dinner. Small, consistent rituals keep love young, anchored when life tries to pull it away. These patterns: distraction, comfort without curiosity, unspoken resentment, and lost rituals, are the quiet thieves of closeness. But they're not unstoppable. If you can begin noticing them, naming them, and shifting them, you can stop the somber erosion before the ground between you gives way completely. And the beauty is this: rebuilding connection doesn't require giant leaps. It requires small, repeated steps toward each other. Steps that say, I still see you. I still want you. I still choose you. If the somber drift has begun, the way back is not through grand declarations or dramatic ultimatums. It's through small, deliberate acts that slowly teach your hearts to meet again. And the best way to do this is to create one shared daily practice. Something simple, something repeatable, something that says without words, I'm here, I'm present, I'm choosing you. The 10-minute warm connection practice. Every day at the same time if possible, give each other 10 minutes of undivided presence. No phones, no television, no multitasking, just the two of you facing each other as if the world has been put on pause. For the first 5 minutes, talk. Not about logistics, not about bills, errands, or schedules, but about you. What's been on your mind? What you've been feeling lately? What you've been dreaming about, worrying about, longing for. And for the next 5 minutes, listen. Really listen. Let them speak without interruption. Let your eyes stay on theirs. Let your body language say, I'm not just hearing you, I'm receiving you. It might feel awkward at first. You might stumble over what to say. That's okay. The goal isn't perfect conversation. The goal is presence. And presence becomes easier with practice until it starts spilling into the rest of your days. Over time, you can add layers to this practice. A nightly walk together, a shared gratitude ritual before bed, a weekend morning coffee date that becomes sacred territory. But begin here with 10 minutes. Because when you can give someone your full attention for even a few minutes each day, you plant seeds of warm connection that can grow into something unshakable and gentle. Remember, small moments matter more than rare grand gestures. A spontaneous text that says, thinking of you, can mean more than a once-a-year vacation. A hand held during a quiet drive can mean more than an expensive gift, because warm connection is not about scale, it's about sincerity. Emotional close. If you've been feeling the slow fade, know this: you're not broken. Your warm love is not gone. It's just been buried under the weight of days and the dust of routine. The somber drift is not proof that you failed. It's proof that you're human, that life has a way of pulling even the closest souls apart unless they learn to pull back toward each other on purpose. You will not rebuild this warm connection in one night, but you don't need to, because warm love is not a fire that has to burn bright at every moment. It's a flame that can be coaxed back to life, gently, patiently, steadily. Every time you look into their eyes instead of your screen, you bring it back. Every time you ask a deeper question instead of settling for "I'm fine," you bring it back. Every time you choose to stay curious about them, to touch them with intention, to speak your gentle truth kindly, instead of hiding it, you bring it back. The gentle truth is, the silent, somber erosion of warm connection can be stopped at any moment. It begins the second you decide that the somber drift is not your new normal, that warm love, to be worth having, is worth tending, that the person beside you is still worth noticing, still worth choosing, still worth reaching for, because no matter how far you've drifted, you can always take a step closer, and then another, and then another. So tonight, when you see them, don't wait for the right moment. Don't wait for a special occasion. Let your next moment be the right moment. Look at them and let your eyes stay there a second longer. Ask them something you've never asked. Touch their hand like it's the first time. And when you do, you'll feel it, that quiet, familiar warmth returning, the reminder that you haven't lost each other after all. You've just been waiting to be found again. The silent erosion stops when you decide to stop it. And warm love begins again when you choose to begin again. And if this message found you at the right time, if it reminded you of what matters and gave you the courage to reach for someone again, then share it with the one you love, warm. Let them hear it. Let it open a door between you. And if you want to keep finding the kind of truths that bring people closer instead of apart, stay here with me. Because together we can make sure love doesn't just survive, it grows.